Southern Cameroonians, brave warriors of our liberation struggle, my dear people, today is Saturday, the 11th of January, in the new year 2020, and my name is Comrade John Baakuro. Accept revolutionary greetings from me. I come here today to call on all and sundry, on all the sons and daughters of the Southern Cameroons, wherever you may be it on ground zero, be it on ground one, or anywhere else around the world, to draw our attention to the fact that what is happening right now on our territory is that we are under a national emergency. The Southern Cameroons is witnessing a state of emergency. We're in a state of exception. And during moments of states of exception, in every country, the people behave and act differently. People forget their personal and individual differences. People sync their group obediences, and people seek to work together as one to overcome the challenge that is standing before them. My dear people of the Southern Cameroons, look into your heart, look into your mind, and ask yourself the very important question: is this what we are doing at this point in time? Are we looking at the massive mobilization that Mr. Paul Biya and his cohorts are engaged in right now on our territory? My dear people, as far as Mr. Paul Biya is concerned, this is one of the key battles of his entire presidency. Yes, he has been in power in his country for over 37 years and counting, but Mr. Paul Biya considers what is happening in the Southern Cameroons right now the battle of his life. My dear people, I had mentioned before that this is what I called in broken language, in pidgin, last fight number one. And I said this was a time more than ever before that we have to group together, that we have to put all the necessary resources together to collectively overcome the challenge before us. We must deny Mr. Paul Biya the victory he wants to claim in the weeks ahead. We must deny Mr. Paul Biya another opportunity to enslave us for centuries to come. We must deny Mr. Paul Biya and all his bloodthirsty demagogues another opportunity to make us feel inhuman, to make us feel like not being human, to make us feel that we're only half man. My dear people, I know that there are a good lot of us who have settled down and told ourselves, because there is disorganization, because there has been mismanagement, because there is chaos at some point in our struggle, it is time to give up. But I must tell you this, my dear people, I come into this communication with this sound message that do not fear failure, but be terrified of regret, as giving up is the birth of regret. Why do I say this? I say this because once you start getting frustrated, once you start drawing back, once you start telling yourself, I have done more than enough and nothing is moving, my dear brother and sister, you are beginning to feel that you have to give up. But remember that giving up is not an option. In our journey seeking international support, remember that we will hear too many no's. You can't be independent. Then we will hear yes. But that yes ultimately is coming. Other nations that went through the same situation like us, they witnessed the same scenario. And my dear people of the Southern Cameroons, someday soon that door will open. Maybe even why not this year? We must continue to stay on. We must continue to work together. We must continue to tell each other that discouragement and abandonment are like a credit card. You enjoy them now, but you pay later. Passivity in the face of suffering is like a credit card. You enjoy it now, but you must pay later. We are in this together. We will either be free together or we will perish together. I want to give you this little example. This is a story I picked from the handbook of the Miss USA 2016. This lady by name the Yaounde, she was introduced into this pageant contest, and she had first of all to win in her state of the District of Columbia before going to compete at the national level. But recall, she lost 6 times. The first time she lost, she wasn't discouraged. The second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, and the 6th time, she didn't still get discouraged. And the 7th time, in 2015, she became Miss District of Columbia. And just a few months after, in June 2016, she became Miss USA. Look at this. After she crossed that hurdle, that all-time hurdle of being the Miss of her state, the next thing is she didn't wait even another year before becoming Miss USA. And the message she had for all her fans around the world is the same message that I brought to you here. That do not fear failure, but be terrified of regret, as giving up is the birth of regret. My dear people, let us draw inspiration from that to know that when you are faced with a national emergency, the most advisable thing to do is not to recoil, but it is to mobilize. It is to rise up and put in everything that you need to put in to make sure you overcome the challenge that is rearing its ugly head before you. Listen, William Ward says, adversity causes some men to break, others to break records. And such a page comes in forcefully to say, never let your head long down. Never give up and sit down and grieve. Find another way. And Pat Reddy completes this thought pattern by saying there are only two options regarding commitment. You are either in or you are out. There is no such thing as life in between. Why do I bring all of these thoughts here? Because a good lot of us are supposed to recognize that this is a time more than ever before when all hands have to be on deck. This is the time more than ever before when our boys and girls and our old men and old women and little children on the ground need our support. This is the time we have to put together every single dollar, every yen, every pound, every euro, every franc that we have to stay the course in this national emergency. But a good lot of us are busy tearing ourselves apart. My dear people, if you call yourself a social activist in this struggle right now, you must recognize that the only duty you have now is turn your entire firepower on La République du Cameroun. That the only duty you have right now is to use all the acumen you have acquired during the past 3 or so years to try and explain to our people on the ground the importance of not being part of this colonial election. Your entire firepower should be focused at making sure that we mobilize our people more than ever before to disgrace La République du Cameroun at the elections on the 9th of February. My dear people, what I see is people still think that the most important thing to do is to concentrate on fighting each other. Let me tell you this. In September of 2017, all those who worked at the time as social activists, we coordinated together. Every other actor in this struggle coordinated together. We put all ideas together. We mobilized as we had never mobilized before, but we were not united. We were not all under one banner. But we recognized at that time that getting our people out on the streets to show that strength that was required to let the world know that our people are truly behind the struggle, that our people support the struggle for freedom, that our people are tired of slavery. That was the driving force, and we did it. Today, all of us look back at September 22, 2017 with a lot of pride, with a lot of anxiety. All of us look back at September 22, 2017 as that point at which millions of Southern Cameroonians from across the world came out to show force to the world. My dear people, this is the kind of mobilization we require now. We must recognize at this point that the only purpose that should unite all of us is to make sure no elections take place on our territory, is to make sure our people stay away from this colonial election. Yes, we have people who are determined to do this. Yes, we have people who are out there sacrificing their all to make sure that this doesn't happen. I'd like to announce to you that the signs I see from Yaounde are very positive signs. Very positive signs, indicative of the fact that we are rather closer more than ever before to victory than we had been at any time. Some see the massive deployment of troops by Mr. Paul Biya as a sign that it is the end time of our struggle. My dear people, I have good news for you. I have a good story to tell you. Unlike you, my dear people, note that the story of dictators and bloodthirsty tyrants in the Bible and in history is the same. when it comes to massive deployment of troops just before the final crash. Take note, I said on the BBC and I repeat here, that that massive deployment of troops is a clear sign of desperation on the side of Mr. Paul Biya. It's a clear indication Mr. Paul Biya recognizes that he has finished all his ideas and now he's coming in for a final and desperate showdown. Guess what happened? Pharaoh sent out his choicest chariots. That was the last time he sent out his choicest chariots after the children of Israel. And what happened to them? They all got drowned in the Red Sea. And that was the end of Pharaoh. Napoleon Bonaparte's wars did not begin and end at Waterloo. No. Napoleon Bonaparte's wars began with the Moscow campaign. In fact, they happened with the Moscow campaign in the Russian city of Moscow in the continental system. Napoleon Bonaparte deployed some of the best soldiers he had ever trained. In their thousands, he had never sent out soldiers less than that. Historical accounts say there were about 300,000. But you know what happened? The Russians deserted, and that entire army was reduced to rubble. That is what made Waterloo possible. That last desperation before a fall. I'd like you also to take a clear look at what happened to Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler's last and most determined effort to subdue the world was at the Battle of Kursk. That was the largest battle involving some 6,000 tanks, 2 million troops, and 4,000 aircrafts. That battle marked the decisive end of the German offensive in the Eastern Front, and it cleared the way for the final defeat of Hitler in 1945. My dear people, so many historical and biblical examples abound to demonstrate that we are nearing the decisive end of the Biya dynasty. We must rise to the occasion. This is not the time to go to sleep. This is not the time to lie on our laurels. No, not when we are very close to victory. No, not when we are very close to making the world see the determination of our people. Not when we are very close to sending the strongest message ever to the world. Look, folks, technically, nothing is new about this new year 2020. This means if we do the same thing that we did in 2019, our results will be the same. Only a fool does the same thing and in the same way and then settles down to expect a different testimony. This struggle, we say over and over, is God ordained. And yes, I want to insist that this struggle is truly God ordained. But let me quote to you from the Bible to demonstrate to you what happens when you know and are convinced that you are struggled, that the effort you are taking is God ordained. Go to the book of Numbers, chapter 23, verse 19. It reads, God is not like people who lie. He is not a human who changes his mind. Whatever he promises, he does. He speaks and it is done. My dear people, take note. We have settled down today and transformed ourselves into crying babies. We have settled down today and determined that no, I cannot contribute my money because I contributed money in the past, it was mismanaged. I contributed a second time, it was mismanaged. I contributed a third time and it was mismanaged. Right now, I am done. No, comrade, you cannot be done. No, folks, we cannot be done. We are currently facing a national emergency. It is time for us to rise up and do it again. And let me give you an example of someone who did it again. Simon Peter, in the days of the Bible, in today's modern world, could be qualified a professor at fishing. Simon has spent the whole night combing waters he knew so well and came away with no harvest. And he was totally broken. But when he encountered our Lord Jesus Christ, and the Lord told him, cast your net again. Cast your net again. And Simon Peter did cast the net again. And the rest is history. All of us know that the catch was like never before. My dear people, what I'd like you to note here is that what did he do? He cast his net again. We must rise up on our feet again. Fellow people, we must rise up on our feet again. We must begin once more to do some of those things that we had started doing in the past and got discouraged and abandoned. My dear people, we cannot afford to lie on our laurels at the time our people need us most. No, the clear signs are there that we just need to do what we have to do to get this victory that we all so desire with a lot of verve, to get this victory that we shall all savor with a lot of relish. My dear people, I want to tell you this. In my last 2 outings, I called on all and sundry who were watching me, who had the opportunity to watch me, that rise up, take your purse, by any means, make a donation of just $10. 10. You have complained all the time that you contributed money and nothing ever happened to it. But I'd like you to take note. When I asked you to contribute this money, I didn't say contribute it to John Bakuro's platform. I didn't say contribute it to me. I directed you to contribute it into the accounts of the Ambazonia Relief Fund. Yes, because there is a body managing that structure. And that structure is doing a lot of wonderful work. It's doing a marvelous job. You need to ask the people in Bui County. You need to ask the people in Fako County. You need to ask the people in Momo County. You need to ask the people in Gokatunja County. Ask the people in Donga Mantun County. There is so much that is being done by the Ambazonia Relief Fund with very little money put at its disposal to alleviate the pains and sufferings of our people. My dear people, I like to say this. We cannot be discouraged at the time we are supposed to make things happen. The people of Eritrea contributed a lot of money at the beginning in the diaspora. A good lot of it was mismanaged, but they didn't get discouraged. At one point, they had to pick up the pieces, and in one night from that moment, each time they raised $1.6 million. How much are we crying over? My dear people, I say this and I repeat, we are today facing a national emergency. And it is time for us to arise and do what has to be done to make sure that we assist these volunteers who are on the ground to do the job that they are doing effectively. We cannot continue to cry. I'd like to tell you, please, gather yourselves, pick up yourselves, cast that net again, make that donation again. You have to make it again. I want to tell you this. Make this donation, hold the ARF accountable. Begin by holding from me accountable. We cannot continue to wail. We cannot continue to shout and cry when our people on the ground need us so badly. Let me tell you this. The volunteers that came together to carry out this daring job at the outset, from Babubok in Kupengwanenguba to Kembong in Manyu, from Bogongo in Dian to Eloani in Meme, from Bifang in Widikum through Aku at Azem in Momo, and then from Zoa in Menchum to Bamali in Gokotunja and Biye in Donga Mantung and all other counties were over 1,000. But like the case of Gideon in the Bible, it has pleased God to cut down that number to 500. The reason is that no man should think that by our sheer numerical strength that we have done it by ourselves. The glory of the impending victory must return to God. These people, they abuse using soft power to undo the damage that's caused of greedy and blood-sucking opportunistic politicians are inflicting on our people. Undoing the havoc that tens of thousands of irresponsible arsonist soldiers from Yaounde are wreaking on our parents, grandparents, and children. Working to reverse the carnage that genocidal imperialist France under President Emmanuel Macron is sponsoring against a peace-loving and unsuspecting people. That is the arduous assignment they are not shying away from. Your own role now is to contribute to sustain their sacrifice, and you must not shy away from this. No amount of explanation will exonerate you from guilt if you remain unmoved and we go ahead to commit collective suicide. My dear people, I call on you once more to understand that the time for you to rise up now, contribute even just $10, that time is now. The time for you to rise up now and tell yourself, I cannot sit quiet when we are facing a national emergency, that time is now. My dear people, the Southern Cameroons is under a state of emergency, but power must change hands. Trust me, I say power must change hands. By the time we come off the 9th of February, we will know who owns our land. We will know who is the proprietor of the Southern Cameroons. You have seen the letter from the African Bar Association. Is there anything better than that? Is there any offer better than that as a New Year present? Than to call on La République du Cameroun to come up before the international community with evidence that they are the owners of our land and not us. The time for you to rise up and do what you have to do and make that very important contribution is now. I am tired of hearing you say, I put in money and it was mismanaged. I have made this clear, and a lot of those who are on the board of the ARF has made this clear, that that structure, which now has a 501c status, is open. That organization is open for all the communities, be you in America, in Canada, in Europe, in Asia. You want to know how they are operating, call the telephone number 301-898-6324. And just so you know, they have been very open. We're having to make it possible for greater representation, that you have an idea exactly how your money is managed. We cannot continue to cry day in, day out that we cannot contribute money because it is mismanaged while our people are dying. My dear people, the time for us to break the yoke of that confusion is now. And just so you know, the enemy knows that it is in confusion, it is in division, it is in chaos that they will overcome us. That is why they have their representatives in about all of our forums. I mean, all of our forums. They will go out there to attack this message. Go over, watch this video on YouTube, go to the comment section and watch. The first people who make comments are the agents of La République du Cameroon, who have subscribed in their numbers and are there to set this confusion. They want to set the tone for you to pick up from there. And because a lot of the times we refuse, my dear people, to look at the reality in the face, we easily fall to that. That is why this gentleman said, this Argentinian singer and writer, he said his grandfather was a very brave man, but the only people his grandfather feared were idiots, and that the grandfather feared and was so disturbed that the idiots were in very good numbers because they could manage to elect a president. My dear people, the idiots in our midst, and I'm not being insultive, because a good lot of us will be idiots without knowing that we are. We simply fall on the threads of conversation thrown in by the agent, meant to distract us, meant to keep us busy attacking each other. And that is what takes all of our time, while we leave our people in serious poverty. We leave our people suffering. We leave our people unassisted. And they do everything to make us realize that if you contribute any money, it will be embezzled, simply because they want to discourage you from contributing. Oh yes. Take note. Watch this video. Go to the forums. They will tell you, so all of that noise was only to come and ask for funds. My dear people, I'm not shy in asking for those funds, because the truth is bitter. We need those funds now more than we've ever needed them before. I don't care to talk about what people call cacophony in the struggle. I have said it over and over again, that we have a lot of people in good places doing a lot of wonderful things. They don't need publicity. The ARF is busy working. The good men and women who make up its board of directors are busy working. There are some who were withdrawn by their organizations because they felt frustrated. They quickly got replaced, and these people are working. They are doing everything possible to make sure that we attain our objective. All they need from you now is your support. This is the time for you to support. My dear brothers and sisters, arise now. Pick up your phone, make this one-time contribution. This is our platform. These are the coordinates. Use this telephone number, Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, but if you must call, if you must talk to someone before making your contribution, if you want to make a special contribution, call any of the telephone numbers down there at special calls, and we will be available to talk to you. We will be available to share with you. My dear people, we are facing a national emergency, yet power must change hands. I tell you, verily, verily, we don't have any choice but to fight them. I tell you, verily, verily, if we allow ourselves to be subdued, we will take centuries to regret. I tell you, verily, verily, my people, the enemy doesn't sleep because he knows he's a thief. Yet we are fought to enjoy sleep when our people are facing the carnage. The massive deployment of troops by Mr. Paul Biya to our territory is a sign of desperation. And we must give Mr. Paul Biya reason to capitulate. When Mr. Paul Biya fails, when he crashes after this massive deployment of troops, he will go the same way King Pharaoh went. He will go the same way Hitler went. he will go the same way Napoleon Bonaparte went. History has a dazzling way of repeating itself. Let us rise up and take the opportunity of the moment that is offered to us and do just what we will be proud of in the future. Let us not allow confusionists to blind us to the reality of the fact that we can only win when we work, to blind us to the fact that we can only win when we make that contribution that is necessary to fuel the struggle. We can only win when we come to that realization that we must cast our net again like Simon Peter did. That was a move of faith, and we shall only win with this move of faith. We shall only win with this show of faith. We shall only win by believing and understanding that God, who has promised to free us, does not lie. God is not man that he will change his mind. To God be the glory.